So having just watched The Blue Dahlia from 1946, a crime masterpiece, I was really intrigued by actress Veronica Lake and started reading some of her biography in researching that film. Her story is so fascinating that instead of putting all of these details into the review for that film, I decided to do a separate biography just of her life based on some of the things that I learned about her. So here we go. Now, Veronica Lake's real name was Constance Ockelman. She was born November 14th, 1919 in Brooklyn, New York. Now, her father died when she was 12, and her mom remarried a year later, and the family would move several times through the years. She was raised between Florida, New York, and Montreal. In her teenage years, she gained some fame in beauty pageants in Florida. Her parents relocated to Beverly Hills, California, where she enrolled in Bliss Hayden School of Acting in Hollywood. In 1940, she married art director John Detley, and her daughter Elaine was born the following year. She signed with Paramount as an actress in 1941, and it was around here that she was named Veronica Lake by producer Arthur Hornblow. Lake for the blueness of her eyes, and according to Hornblow, Veronica kind of suggested a classic beauty. In 1941, she had her big break with the film I Wanted Wings. She starred in this with William Holden. More box office hits would follow, such as Sullivan's Travels and I Married a Witch, that came out in 1941. In 1942, she was cast with Alan Ladd, who was a newer actor at the time in the noir film This Gun for Hire. Their pairing was so popular that they would appear together in 7 films, including films like The Glass Key in 1942 and The Blue Dahlia in 1946. Interesting that she was only 4'11", and Ladd was said to have been around 5'6", so there really wasn't a big issue there with that height disparity. Now, by the beginning of World War II, Veronica Lake was very popular, especially her hairstyle. It was dubbed the peekaboo, with her being the peekaboo blonde. So the style is this long blonde hair with a wavy lock over an eye. Many women would try to replicate this look. And she was also a popular pinup model with GIs. And I thought it was funny that during the war, she was forced by the government to temporarily change her hairdo because women in factories were becoming injured when their long locks were catching in assembly line machinery. Now, eventually, there would be different factors that would lead to her decline in popularity. She supposedly had a reputation of being very difficult to work with on set. In 1942, she divorced John Detley, and the following year, she stumbled on a cable during the making of The Hour Before Dawn in 1944, and this led to her son William being born prematurely. Now, by the end of the 1940s, her career had come to an end pretty much. Her drinking problems had contributed to her decline, as well as rumors of mental instability, and that would be something she would struggle with for the rest of her life. She married the director André Detoth in 1944. Now, he had a reputation for being somewhat violent. They had a son, André, the following year. Now, around here, her drinking just worsened, and she just wasn't encouraged by her husband or anybody to get help. She starred in The Blue Dahlia in 1946, and she was popular in that, but her reputation continued to have issues as people like screenwriter Raymond Chandler and even co-star Alan Ladd would say negative things in their comments about working with her. She was finished with Paramount in 1948. However, during this downtime, interestingly enough, she earned her pilot's license in 1946 and eventually was able to fly solo from Los Angeles to New York. 20th Century Fox picked her up in 1948, but her acting career continued to decline. She was in the film Stronghold in 1952, which turned out to be a flop and would be her last for decades. The IRS was after her for unpaid taxes, and she finally divorced André Detoth. She found some work on television and in stage productions. She remarried in 1955 to songwriter Joseph A. McCarthy. In 1959, she would break her ankle and be unable to show up for the few performances she was able to get. So at this point, she left the public eye, divorced McCarthy, and would only make headlines for the occasional police report of disorderly conduct. Now, in the early 1960s, a reporter discovered her working as a waitress at a hotel bar in Manhattan and reported this. And the attention that she got from this was enough to give her acting career a boost, a second shot. She hosted a weekly movie showcase in Baltimore and would also appear in several small theater productions. She would go into semi-retirement in Hollywood, Florida, where she would write her biography. And she talked about her temper, alcoholism, and mental illness in that biography. She also co-financed her final film role, Flesh Feast, in 1970. Do yourself a favor and do not watch this film, but know that this was her final film role, and leave it at that. Veronica Lake relocated to England in 1970 and remarried, but she would soon be back in the United States in 1973 for issues with hepatitis and renal failure related to her alcoholism. Estranged from her children, she would die alone in 1973. Veronica Lake was a popular actress of the classic 1940s golden era of Hollywood. She was known for her iconic peekaboo hairstyle and memorable femme fatale roles. In more modern cinema, we can see her influence of her look and her style in crime films like LA Confidential in '97, and even more from my generation as the animated character Jessica Rabbit, who wore a scarlet version of Lake's peekaboo hairstyle in Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1988. Now, despite her personal challenges, Veronica Lake was a very memorable actress, and she left a lasting legacy in Hollywood and remains an enduring icon of the golden age of Hollywood.